So now we have looked at how we value something and the reasons why. We've walked through the valuation process. Let's give some examples. The first example I'd like to give would be in an M&A environment, a mergers and acquisitions. In this instance, the management and the investment bank who is involved with management didn't fully understand the portfolio of patents. We came in and we discussed the cash flows and the business and tried to understand the patents ourselves. The business only had about $3 million worth of revenue. They were a manufacturer in the aerospace and defense industry. Well, they came back to us and said that their patent portfolio was recently valued at $6.8 million. Well, we were looking at this business. We looked at the patents. Most of the patents were for products that were no longer being used. It was very easy in this instance. Aerospace and defense simply looked for what programs the products were on. A lot of them were no longer in production. This really destroyed the mergers and acquisition and the transaction itself. Our client didn't want to take that on. They thought $6.8 million was too much. The other side simply said, we won't accept less than what our patent portfolio is worth. Well, this is a good example of why you need to review and be proactive in business planning and an M&A environment. In this instance, management did a good job. They came in and they asked somebody to review their IP portfolio. Well, somewhere along the line, something did not go well. Someone didn't do enough due diligence. This is very important. This is rather than being reactive, the company tried to be proactive. This is something all of you should consider. You need to understand what intangible assets your company may have. The second instance I'd like to talk to is a purchase price allocation or a gap compliance analysis. We were hired to do the purchase price allocation. Well, management told us everything is goodwill. We don't have any intangible assets in this transaction. We came in, the first thing we asked for was press releases. Well, we got all the press releases on the transaction, and lo and behold, in the second paragraph, this company has great customer relationships, wonderful technology. Well, those are intangible assets. Discuss this with management. They also had some non-competes. Well, we ended up having to break it apart into goodwill and intangible assets. We had to look at the non-compete, the customer relationship. They had supplier contracts in place already. These were things that were very important in their intangible assets. After walking through the process, everything went well. The company was very happy. The third analysis I'm going to make here, the third example, we were hired again for a purchase price allocation. We came in, one of the first things we did was we spoke with the auditors. This was for a distribution company. They were fairly large. They were a good-sized distribution company. We spoke with the auditors. We spoke with management. We had a thorough understanding of what their intangible assets or the expected intangible assets were. The neat thing here is this was a very large distributor. The customers loved them because they always had the products that were very hard to find. They knew their customers well. They had built a relationship. They had more knowledge of their customers than simply this is what they order. They knew what their customers were looking for. They knew who the key people were. They had a history of selling to these businesses. Well, the auditors came to us and said, perhaps there is a supplier intangible asset, supplier contract. We examined the supplier contracts. They were fairly industry standard. What the auditors and we came up with was simply the suppliers knew that this company had good customers and great customer relationships, and therefore were willing to go down a step and give this business last production of whatever the products may be. There is some supplier relationship there, absolutely. However, it comes out in the customer side. And after meeting with the auditors, meeting with management, this was the direction all of us felt was best for the company and truly captured the value of the customer relationship and the intangible asset. So that's 3 examples. 1, someone didn't do proper due diligence. Well, what happened there is it caused the merger and acquisition to fall apart. That is why you must be proactive in your analysis of your intangible assets. The second one, management at that time may not have realized they had the intangible assets, and that may be a situation you often find yourself in. And the idea is you may not know you have it, but you have intellectual property. The third instance was a great success. The teams got together early. We did proper due diligence. We spoke with the auditors and the management. And because of that, the transaction and the work that needed to get done was done very smoothly, very efficiently, and everybody was very pleased. So in conclusion, the 3 points to remember are a business valuation and an intangible asset valuation. While examining different assets, different securities, different businesses, have similar processes, the analyses are the same, and hopefully this helped to demystify the fact that an intangible asset valuation, while more complex due to the amount of information and the details, is very similar to a business valuation. The second thing to remember is, as we move from a technology age to a knowledge age, that knowledge in and of itself represents an intangible asset and intellectual property. And finally, the companies that can realize that, get their hands on it, and understand what they have are the companies that will succeed in the coming age. Thank you very much. For more information on this topic, please click on the button to download a copy of UHY Advisor's Guide to Valuing and Protecting Intellectual Property. Or, to contact one of our professionals, please click on the button Contact a Professional.